So today we are going to talk about two different models. One is going to be VAST and other is going to be Octave. VAST and Octave model. Now, when we are talking about VAST model, let us. Okay, so VAST modeling, we talk about the VAST modeling here, where VAST basically is the visual, agile,
Okay.
and simple.
Okay.
Let
Visual.
agile, and simple threat
Threat
modeling.
model.
VAST.
Okay.
So VAST threat modeling. Now, VAST is a threat modeling technique which is designed to integrate seamlessly with the Agile and the DevOps environment. So Agile method, DevOps method, we have already discussed earlier when we talked about like fast changes, small bursts and all.
Yeah.
Okay, let me draw a diagram for you so that you understand the DevOps model.
Yeah.
In the DevOps model, where does the threat modeling comes into picture? Okay,
Yeah.
and
You took the word right out of my mouth.
yes. Okay, so let us start with the first thing, that is create. Okay, create. Right now, the model, basically this DevOps looks like this. So we have here, then we have here, and then we have here, and then we have
Oh, infinity. Okay.
infinity. Okay, this is how the DevOps works. So this is the dev, this is the ops.
Okay.
Okay, now in the dev, basically at the middle you have some basically monitoring and analytics.
Okay.
So monitoring and analytics is available in both of them. So monitoring and analytics. Now the main people here, they are the security champions. So sec champs. Now on the right hand side, you have monitoring and analysis. Now when we are doing the monitoring and analysis, these all are basically for log and perimeter.
Okay.
Sorry, log and perimeter monitoring, and we have the another thing that we have the API gateway, security and performance logs.
Okay.
Okay, so this is what is basically captured here in the monitoring and the analytics. Now there are 4 steps in dev, 4 steps in ops. So the first step basically is the create in the dev. Then we have plan.
Okay.
Then we have adapt. Adapt is a crossover step.
Okay.
And other 2 steps are verify, and then you have pre-prod.
Okay.
Okay, and here the once you basically adapt, after adapt you go for predict, then you go for respond, then you go for detect here, and you have prevent here, and you have release here. So this is release, this is adapt, this is pre-prod from here to here, this is verify, this is create, this is plan, this is predict, this is respond, this is detect, this is prevent, and this is release. Okay.
Okay.
Now, when we are going through these steps, the first thing that is basically, okay. Now in this diagram, I'll not be able to show, but I'll just scroll down and show you below this one.
Okay.
So the first thing that happens here in the plan step, okay? In the plan step, this is the first step. So in the plan step, it comes to be, so basically the flow is like this. You go from 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let me write it down here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you have 5. Release is 5. Then you have 6, prevent,
Okay.
and then you have detect, that is 7. Then you have 8, that is respond, and then you have 9, that is predict. Okay, and then you have 10, that is adapt.
Yeah.
Exactly. So the first phase is where you have the threat modeling. Okay, so what are the tools and what exactly happens in these? I'll tell you. So first is basically in this first step, you have threat modeling, you have the security tool trainings, whatever the tools you are using, you are going to train people for that.
Yeah.
Okay, security tool training. Then you have you set up the metrics.
Okay.
And these metrics are basically called the DevSec metrics.
Okay.
DevSec metrics. Okay, and basically this is a technical step, right? So where you do the threat modeling, then you do the training, and then you set up the DevSec metrics.
Okay.
Step number 1. Now comes step number 2, where you create. When you are creating, what tool do you generally use? Yes,
Integrated
it is
data.
IDE. Now in the IDE, since you are going to have a security perspective to it, you are going to have security plugins. Okay. So you will be checking everything. You will be any kind of thing you want to check, basically from a security standpoint. You can do it during the code itself. Now, when you are creating, if something is not correct or you want to check the security of the code, you do it in the verify stage. So what tools you might use here for checking the integrity of the code? So SAST, DAST. There is a tool called IAST.
Yeah.
Then SCA. All these different tools you can use. Right. Now you have verified it. Now you are going to pre-production. So pre-production. In the pre-production, what kind of activities you might do from a security standpoint? Integration test we do. Smoke test is not a security testing. Integration testing is a security testing. Then if you have heard of the fuzz testing. Yeah, so input fuzzing, that is called. So fuzz testing, these are security tests. So these are the couple of things that we do, right? Next is the step that is for release. So in the release, what do? We basically do release. In the release phase or release step of the pipeline, we basically do software signing. Now that you have done the release, you are going for prevent. In the prevent step, what we can do? We have done the signing. So first we'll verify the signature if it is correct or not. So now we have come to the operation. So development was done. Release is releasing. Now in the operations part, we will check first for signature verification, then check for defense in depth measures,
Okay.
then check for any integrity checks,
Mm-hmm.
code integrity checks. After this, we go to the detect.
Okay.
In the detect phase, what information we can detect? What kind of testing we can do in the detect? Or what kind of monitoring we can do in the detect? So in the detect phase, we do penetration testing. What else? Network monitoring.
You.
UEBA, that is user or entity behavioral analytics.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So UEBA monitoring. These are basically done by XDR, extended detection and response. Okay. Then yeah, so these are basically so real-time application self-protection, this is called,
Okay. Yeah.
or real-time runtime, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Then we have the step number 8, that is respond.
Okay.
Now in the respond, what do? Respond, we have basically here we have the
Mm.
okay. Then we have obfuscation, and then we have security orchestration.
Mm.
Security, sorry, orchestration. So security orchestration basically like in terms of CI/CD pipeline, right?
Mm.
So security orchestration, what it does is basically it will be trying to uh, do, do basically continuous monitoring and feedback. It will do secret management. It will do compliance and policy enforcement. Then all the different type of integrating the security tools, etc. So it will automate the whole process. When we are doing automation of the process, automatic code commit, automatic build, then automatic tests like DAST, automation of the DAST.
Mm-hmm.
That is what is used in the security orchestration. So any kind of orchestration, they will be automating the process to check for any vulnerabilities, any gaps in the system. Then you have the 9th step, that is the predict. So in predict, basically, what type of tools do you think we use?
Oh,
Predict is predicting vulnerabilities,
vulnerable.
responding to the vulnerabilities, detecting if there is any vulnerability, how to detect using the pen testing. Try to figure out those vulnerabilities using vulnerability analysis and something called as indicators of compromise.
Okay.
Now, what happens here is when we say prediction is done through something called as threat intelligence. Here we do gather threat intelligence. How do we gather intelligence? There is a method called STIX. Okay, these are called threat feeds. Threat feeds. And
Mm-hmm.
what this is a format for a threat feed,
Mm.
STIX, and they are also called taxi feeds, TAXII. Okay,
Okay.
now these feeds are basically XML format, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so these are in XML format, JSON or XML format, which can be consumed. So if you have a XML reader, or if you have a specific reader, you can
Mm.
easily input and read what kind of details are there here. What is the vulnerability name, what is the indicator name which is compromisable, and all these things. So what you
Mm.
do is you predict what can happen in your environment.
Mm.
Okay, so all these things you do in the predict phase using vulnerability analysis, correlated vulnerability analysis, and using the indicators of compromise, using threat intelligence
Mm-hmm.
information, using the threat feeds.
Mm-hmm.
And the last one, that is adapt. The adapt is all about modify. So if there is any incident that happened, based on the incident response, you are going to modify whatever is required.
Mm.
Your code might have been compromised, so update the code accordingly. Your code might have been appeared in a dark web, which is being sold and it's freely available, so you have to update the code, change the code accordingly, adjust the code, right?
Mm.
So these are the different steps which are there. These are the different tools in the tool chain, DevSecOps tool chain, which are useful to. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is the CI/CD one. Now we were talking about VAST. So as per the VAST model, which is Agile and DevOps environment, it focuses on creating scalable threat models that are easy to understand and maintain. Now, how to create the model and how to integrate it, how the automation will work, let us see.
Okay.
So before that, there are some steps which are there in a visual model. Let me tell you about that visual model. Foundation pillars, these are called. Okay, so the foundation pillars of VAST. So there are three foundation pillars that give the vast threat modeling practice, that actually allow you to create the vast model. Now, when you are thinking of the methodologies, they are not basically built for scalability, but vast pillars support exponential growth, enabling a self-service threat modeling practice. So the first pillar is the automation. Okay, so when
Okay.
it comes to automation in vast, basically complex technology automations, they require complex technologies in the any enterprise, they require automation to save on time cost and eliminate repetitive manual threat modeling,
Mm-hmm.
reducing time to update a model from hours to minutes. Now, VAST basically addresses sustainability and the ongoing updates required from the design to post deployment. So, from design to post deployment, basically, you can address the sustainability and you can update them. There will be ongoing updates from design to post deployment. Wherever and whenever you want, you can update through automation. If
Mm.
you are doing these steps, that's why I gave you these steps. You know the steps, what is happening. If you're doing code signing, if you're doing fuzz testing, if you're doing SAS-SCA, if you are using ID, if you're doing a threat modeling in the first phase, if you are basically doing pen testing and vulnerability testing and threat feeds and WAF,
Mm.
and if you are modifying based on the incident response, that means you are into the CI/CD pipeline. That means you are doing the DevSecOps model. Now, if you are using DevSecOps model or Agile model, vast threat modeling can be done. So that is where basically DevSecOps comes. Now, whenever you are telling, okay, I'm using VAST. So of course, you are having an agile environment, or you
Okay.
are using CI/CD pipeline where you are deploying everything through the
Okay.
scanning of the code signing, pen testing on the fly, vulnerability assessment on the fly, threat inputs and checking the
Mm.
IOCs are there on the fly. You're not waiting for anyone. Everything is through automation, right? So
Yeah.
this through this whole automation, you are doing the deployment process from designing to deployment, everything through automation.
Mm.
The next thing that comes up in VAST, the second foundation pillar of VAST is integration. Next is integration. Now, VAST is the only model, only methodology which is created with the principle of Agile and DevSecOps.
Mm.
No other method, not even MITRE, not even Stride, nothing is basically boosting the short term sprint structure of continuous improvements and updates. No model can help you with that.
Mm.
Only VAST will help you, right? Now,
Mm.
through VAST, basically, threat modelers integrate with CI/CD tools to deliver consistent, accurate security output.
Mm.
So this totally works and integrates with the CI/CD. Integrate. Sorry, integrate with CI/CD tools to deliver consistent and accurate security outputs. Okay.
Okay.
Then integration, and the last one is collaboration. Now, in the third pillar, basically, it is all about scalability. So we have scalability. Scalability, the threat modeling, scalable threat model basically requires stakeholder collaboration and their inputs. So VAST basically emphasizes agile collaboration tools for use by teams to communicate security controls and issues broadly. More people across the organizations will be able to, they need to be involved. So you need to maintain a collaboration from all the stakeholders, dynamic security mindset has to be there, and so on, right? So basically, you have to create a process flow diagram instead of just a data flow diagram with the vast, and you have to understand the focus of what you are going to do and so on, because it is giving you a holistic view apart from what stride gives. Stride gives just talks about six major threats, that's it. It doesn't talk about of a communication of a process, right? And it also leads to a lot of false positives and false negatives and everything. So that's how basically it helps. So any point of time to get maximize efficiency and return on investment, if you have agile or DevSecOps process in the organization, it is always best that you basically use vast modeling, right? Again, this is not focus towards any particular threat or any attack vector or any goal by the attacker. It is not MITRE, it is not pasta, it is not any other. It's a totally different model, right? Its focus point is different. Its focus is basically your CI/CD pipeline and how to integrate security into every step of the pipeline, so that anywhere you see a threat, at any phase, when you are detecting, when you are designing the code, when you are even thinking about the code, when you write the first word of the line of the code, everything should be checked from the very first step from a security perspective. So basically you are putting a big magnifying glass which is called security, and under that you are putting the code and any process or any interaction with anyone. Now, what are the steps here? The first step, that is basically you are creating the threat model, right? So creating the threat model. So here the action is basically develop the model for each application component using a visual diagram, whatever visual diagram you want to make. Okay. So example, say for example, for microservice architecture, create threat models for the user authentication service. Okay, so if yeah, great. So in microservice architecture, if suppose you are doing a threat modeling, you are first modeling for user authentication service, then second you are going for the payment service, then next you are going for product catalog service.
Yeah.
Okay, so for each of these microservice, you create a threat model diagram, a small diagram for each of them, right? So that's the example. So that's how basically you are going to create the visual diagram for the threat modeling for each application component. Now, the second step is integrate with the next step, that is agile development. Now, when you are actually integrating with agile development, next is you integrate with the agile environment. So agile development. So when you are integrating this, what happens? You are incorporating the threat modeling into agile sprints.
Mm.
Okay? So you include security related user stories and tasks. So your task is basically to include the security related user stories and tasks. Now, example for this would be like add a user story like, as a developer, I want to validate user input to prevent SQL injection,
Mm.
something like that, into your sprint backlog. So in the backlogs, in the stories, you can put, as a developer, I want to validate user input to prevent SQL injection. And based on that, you do whatever is required. So this will be one single service and do the threat modeling around it.
Okay.
So you have integrated with the agile development.
Mm.
Now that you have put into agile development, what you are going to do is you are going to automate the threat detection. Automate the threat detection. So here you use automated tools to continuously scan for threats and vulnerabilities as part of the CI/CD pipeline. Now this is everything. It doesn't tell whether it's a SaaS DAST penetration tester, penetration tool, or any Tenable or Qualys or any other detection tool. Anything you can think of. So this is all automation. You don't have to basically scan manually. It should be that the moment you push the code into pre-production, it should be starting the scan automatically. Like it gets scanned for SaaS, DAST, then it gets scanned for code signing, it gets scanned for vulnerabilities, OWASP top 10, this, that, SANS 25, whatever scanners you can think of. Anything and everything you can integrate and automate here in the threat detection. So use automated tools to continuously scan for threats and vulnerabilities as part of the CI/CD pipeline. Now, example is implement static code analysis, dynamic application security testing, etc. These kind of tools in the CI/CD pipeline.
Okay.
So that is automating the threat detection. And the fourth step is basically you collaborate and reiterate. Yeah, so we are talking about the last one, that is collaboration
Yeah.
and iterate. So in this, you collaborate between development team, security team, and operations team to
Mm.
continuously update and improve the models. So how do you do it? You basically have regular sprints, right? So hold regular security review and threat modeling sessions as part of those sprints, so that you can tell them, see, I have done this scanning and I found that this is a gap, so please fix it before you proceed. So they will fix it and they will proceed. So that's how basically you will be doing it. Then you continuously tell them that we are having a specific best practice policy for doing like using the code. So how to make sure that your code is very tough, it's not having open source vulnerabilities and so on. So all these training basically you keep on giving them, so that from time to time they know what is going on, right?
Mm.
So that's about the whole idea for this vast. So, guys, how do you like the presentation? If you want to learn more about list or library centric, asset or goal centric, threat actor, attacker centric, or software centric threat modeling, attack trees, Stride, MITRE framework for threat modeling, Pasta, Octave, hybrid modeling, or Dread, Bugbar, or even attack trees, contact through WhatsApp or email to know more.